Hi and welcome to the 64 Doors. Today we're going to open door 16. Here we find an archetype that has a passion for experimentation and that is skilled in having many skills. One day this archetype is going to become a master. We call this archetype the Enthusiast. We're going to look at this archetype from a human design perspective and a Jinky perspective, and we're going to also see how we can embody this energy in our lives. So right now in the transits, we have the Sun in Gemini in gate 16. We have the Earth in Sagittarius in gate 9. And the design part of the cross, it's the 40th gate and the 37th gate. And the way that this works is that if somebody's born right now in this transit, they are going to be born with the Sun in this position, with the Earth in this position. And then if you go 3 months back in time, 88 degrees in the Rave Mandala, this is where the Sun was. And this is the placement where we say that the soul incarnated in their body. So with both human design and the Jinkies, we're going to have those two different positions of the Sun that are going to dictate basically our role, our personality, our mind when we look at the black one, the moment of birth. And then the 88 degrees before, the 3 months before, is going to be the soul, the DNA, the lineage, the unconscious. So in both Chinkies and human design, we're looking at the dance between the role and the soul, basically, the conscious and the unconscious. So this cross, if you're born this week, you're going to have a cross that starts with a 16. And my favorite cross with a 16 is actually the left angle cross. So this is if you are a 5-1 or a 6-2 or a 6-3 or a 5-2. So this is a left angle cross of identification, and it is skills. So that's the 16. It's the experimentation, the skills, the curiosity. And then the 9 is the focus. It's the one that is, it's also connected through the channel with the 52. So it's a lot about focus and inner stillness. And then right now we have the Sun in Gemini in gate 16. We have the Earth in Sagittarius in gate 9. And the design part of the cross is the 37 in Pisces and the 40 in Virgo. So basically, if somebody's born this week, it's going to have this position of the Sun. And it means that the design position is going to be 88 degrees back in time in gate 37. And this is about 3 months before. So when we look at normal astrology, we're only going to look at the Sun position and then consequently all the other planets from this position. In both Jinkies and human design, we're adding these other activations that it comes from the 88 degrees before the moment of birth in the Rave Mandala. So what we are going to see is that we have one activation that is the role, it's the conscious, it's the personality, it's the mind, you could say. And then we have another activation that comes from 88 degrees before, that is the soul, the lineage, the DNA, the unconscious. So in both human design and Jinkies, we have this dance between the conscious and the unconscious, between the role and the soul. And understanding that there is always this dance that actually wants to happen, and they want to be really working together and not in conflict. So we are learning about our soul and our role through these systems. And in Jinkies, we're even calling it a breakthrough, when you go from the conscious to the unconscious. So if you're born this week, you're going to have one of 3 crosses in this transit. And my favorite one is the left angle cross of identification. And that's made up of gate 16, gate 9, gate 63, and gate 64. And it says, you carry the energy to draw people in to identify with your cause. Whether you are raising money for a charity, selling houses or promoting a book, you have the design to get people to identify with the picture you're painting. At the core, it is the foundation of logic combined with charisma and enthusiasm that hook people to your cause. You are here to collect people who identify with what you believe in. I really love this. I really, really love this cross because it has that genius of the 63 and the 64 that are head gates, and they are about imagination and inquiry. And then it has this the main, if you want, the sun, it has this curiosity, this enthusiasm, this versatility. And then the 9 is what makes it being able to be determined and focused. So this is a super, super, super cool cross. And we also have a cross that is the fixed faith, the 4-1, that is a little bit more fixed in its way, but it's the same 4 energies. And the one that we were just looking at in the Brave Mandala is the 16 and the 9 plus the 37 and 40. And the 37 and 40 is that channel of community. So it has a much more tribal feeling to it. And yeah, it's different. So if you have that one, go to Love Your Human Design and the Incarnation Crosses and read about it. And of course, if you do your activation sequence in the Gene Keys, you're going to be able to read about each one of these. So this is going to be your life's work, this is your evolution, this is your radiance, and this is your purpose. So that's the same thing. The Incarnation Cross in Human Design is exactly the activation sequence in the Gene Keys. So when we look at the channel, I'm going to show it to you actually first. So we look at 16, it comes out from the throat center and it meets the 48 in the splenic center. And this is a collective, this is in the collective circuitry, and the 48 has to do with depth. It's a splenic gate, so it actually has the fear or the feeling of inadequacy in a low frequency. And the human design way of explaining it is that this is the channel of the wavelength. It's a design of talent. And it says, you have the design of talent, but this talent has to be earned through constant repetition and gradual improvement. Wait to find the one thing you can give yourself to totally. And this is the thing with the 16, it needs to have that enthusiasm. Otherwise, it's not going to continue to explore those skills. And that is the repetition that is needed to really be able to go deep, to really be able to develop that talent and that mastery. And if we look at the 16 by itself, it says it's a gate of skills and enthusiasm. And these are people who can never have enough skills. They are skilled in having many skills. So for me, this is actually my sphere of relating in the Star Pearl, which is, this is the way that I naturally relate. And there is nothing that I feel like I can't relate about with other people. And I have it in a line too, which means that it's about feedback. So it's always, for me, there's always this enthusiasm, this inspiration, this curiosity to respond in some way to whatever is brought up. And if I would give you some other keywords, so that would be, it's actually a very musical key as well. So we see it especially in the arts, and in order to be able to actually, it has that talent of discernment, of selectivity, to know if something is if there is talent in something, not only like in its own talent, but it can also select and see where that exists in others. And the motivators are the curiosity, the passion for experimentation, and the seeing possibilities in almost anything. And it's naturally talented, it's expressive, and it's versatile. And the Achilles heel is that it can be perceived as scattered, because if you're always looking for new skills, it looks like one week you're so deep into one thing and the next week you're into something else. And that's the 16. We wanted to stay long enough with something to actually develop that mastery. And it's also what I was saying, it can be critical to others when it feels like others don't have that same dedication, that same passion to pursue and explore. So that can be a little bit of that kind of not understanding others, or even a little bit of intolerance. And let's see if maybe we go right into the gene key. So everything we've spoken about so far has a lot to do with the mechanics of the body graph, with how the incarnation cross works, what other keys are the possible combinations. And now we go into the gene keys, and the gene keys is really about a frequency band. So it speaks about the 16 in its lowest expression, frequency expression, which is all about contraction and fear. And it speaks about it all the way up to a very, very expansive frequency, to a very high frequency that is even like beyond what the human expression is. So when we look at the words, we have red, green, and blue. So the human path is really the middle word. That's what we want to focus on. That's what we want to mimic. That's what we want to tap into. And then we are going to feel moments where we go into contraction, where we go into fear, and then we're going to be experiencing the shadow frequency. And then we have the blue frequency, which is really this creator frequency. So when we're completely in tune with the Schumann resonance, with the pulse of Mother Earth, and then we become the creator. That is not something that is it's not a constant state, and nothing is a constant state. Everything is ever changing. So to know in our activations, our gates and gene keys, know the different expressions that are possible within the same activation is something quite important, and also leads us to be able to embrace it all and not reject anything. So here you can see that the low frequency is indifference for these gene keys, to not have that passion, to not want to experiment, but to kind of be like neither warm or cold about things. And since this is a collective gate, it means that when you have an indifference that has to do with a collective level about society, about the world can really start to go quite in the wrong direction if everybody tunes into this frequency. And then there is the inertia to move, to do anything. It's like nobody cares and nobody does anything. And you can see that here here you can see the repressive and the reactive way of expressing this shadow. And I would say go to the 64 doors and look at really what it means to be self-deluded or killable, because it looks very different if you're repressing or if you're reacting. One is like really putting it inside yourself, but it's eating you from the inside, and the reactive is like eating others. And both are going to create havoc in your life. And it's of course together with, if you look at, so that's a programming partner, but also if you look at the integral human design, you're going to see here the stream of service is in integral human, what we call in the stream of service in integral human design is the collective stream in actually it's probably only half of the collective circuitry. That's what we call the stream of service, and you can see here deficiency. So it's when we add the 48 to the 16, it becomes deficiency. And then the talent is actually when we add both. We have the depth of the 48 and we have the versatility of the 16. So it's a similar theme, and the shadow frequency of the 48 is inadequacy. So that's why it becomes deficiency. So if we go to the I Ching, it's also, I actually want to go and speak a little bit about the coding prosperity. But first we can see this hexagram in the I Ching is made up of thunder over earth. So thunder is when we have two trigrams of thunder, we have gene key 51. And when we have two trigrams of earth, we have gene key 2. So we could say that the 16 is built up of the 51 and the 2. And when we look at here, you can see that it says, awakened unity. That's the city of the 51. This is the city of the 2. And here we have the gift level initiating orientation. So indifference is agitated dislocation. Versatility is initiating orientation, and mastery is awakened unity. I really love those. I could just contemplate them forever. And awakened energy infuses the ground with fertility. So awakened energy, you can feel like that is that 51, and then the fertility and the ground, the earth of the 2. So that's how it's built. And realizing receptivity the second gene key, and the realization, the awakening of the 51. How do I close this? And then the astrology, we're still in mutable air. So magician, trickster, curiosity, play. I think this is there's one more. No, there's a couple of more actually transits in Gemini. And the dream arc is also, like I always say in Jane Addams' blog, she's painting them every week. So I will go there and feel into them. Rose Aronson is also, she's doing things with the dream arc that are basically about to be launched, I think. So it's not out there yet. But this is a beautiful way. And also the crystals. Using the crystals in the transits is really, really powerful. And there's also the mudra that you can go, and here we have the mudra. Actually, let me see if I can just play this. So I'm going to just show you this one. If I can turn this on.
Take your pinky fingers, your index fingers, bring them together, cross over the other fingers, and then you bring your thumbs together. Bring that in front of your chest. Feel the power in the mudra of mastery. Close your eyes. Breathe into that mastery.
So this is something that you buy the library of the mudras, and there are a couple of them that we are including already. This is like a sneak peek into the library, and for me it's such a beautiful way to use the breath and the mudra to connect in a very receptive way, in a very right brain way to the energy of the gene keys. I'm wondering if there's anything else. I think that's all. And then let's see how we can tune into it this week. And what I usually like is the questions for contemplation, because I can kind of take one every day and tune into that. So for the 16, some of the questions are, what are your passions? How are you pursuing your passions in your current life? And what are you naturally talented in? Do you know even what you're talented in? Or could you maybe have that inquiry this week to see, like, what is really easy for me? What am I doing without even thinking that it's actually a talent of mine? And also the other side, where are you giving up on yourself in the world, or in your personally with yourself? What do you really care about? Where do you see yourself creating mastery in your life, in the world? Are you feeling scattered? Are you having this thing of like never having enough skills, so you're scattering yourself all over the place? And then what I didn't speak about, I realize now, is that codon ring of prosperity. So we have two gene keys together, which is the 45 and the 16. The 45 is about dominance in the shadow frequency, in the 16 it's about indifference. And we see a lot in the collective, like what that can lead to, when nobody really cares, nobody really step up, or there's a fear of stepping up, so it looks like everybody's silent and indifferent. And then the dominance of the 45 can really just dominate everything, right? So, and then the higher frequencies is that versatility, the new possibilities of doing things, where everything is possible. And that, because that comes together with the gift frequency of the 45, which is synergy. So synergy and versatility creates a lot of new possibilities. And the archetype of the 45 is what we're calling goodwill, or the goodwill. So you'll see it's going to be in transit in just a couple of weeks. So you can think back on the 16 and actually match them together. And the highest frequency is communion for the 45, and mastery. So communion, mastery is when we are creating a new world. So this is a really, really powerful. And you can see that at all levels. Like when you have this in your personal life, you're going to create prosperity. And when you have it on a collective level, it's the possibility to create a new world where there is communion and synergy, and where everybody is adding their mastery, their versatility to that creation. So that's something very exciting. So I'm wishing all of you a really nice week in the transit of this archetype of the enthusiast. Thank you.